Hello and welcome back to My Dead Dragon. I am your host, Kathrine. I am so excited and honored to be in conversation with Valerie Connell today. This is going to be a powerful, powerful conversation. Valerie she's in Montreal, Quebec. She's the oldest of three children, and she's a divorced mother of two, currently working as an organizational change management specialist at Pratt & Whitney, Canada. And she's also an avid yoga practitioner and teacher and a certified life coach. And her passion really is to help women recover from alcoholism and codependent and coercive relationships. And I love this next part. Honestly, when I read this, I'm like, girl, yes. Valerie describes herself as being in recovery from life so far. and continues to learn how to bring healing and closure to maladaptive ways of being in the world so that she can help others with their unique journey. So Valerie, thank you for joining me today. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. And so I would love it if you would share a little bit about what's your story. What, the theme is My Dead Dragon, waking up and realizing like, oh crap, I got to be the hero of my own life or heroine of my own life. What does that look like? So what's your story?
Oh, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me to be here. It's a pleasure. So, thinking about, that moment when I realized when I realized that I was going to have to be the heroine in my own story, I had absolutely no idea how to go about it. It was such a frightening task for me. Because I was completely unequipped to do it, and I knew it, but I didn't know what to do about it. And I first had this sensation, I think it was probably November of 1988 or 89. I was in third year university, and I suddenly realized that I was way behind on one of my international relations classes. I like the way this whole process went down. It was so weird. I suddenly panicked. Oh my God, I haven't even started the essay. And then I thought, well, I'll just drop the class. And then it hit me, I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing about life in general. And thus began this complete meltdown. I mean, I literally had a total meltdown, and it was the beginning of many. And it was just this sudden awareness of how vulnerable and unprepared I was for life because of skills and things that I hadn't picked up when I was younger. And it was an absolutely terrifying thing to me. And it got me into paralysis of analysis, and I spent a lot of time in bed. I spent a lot of time crying. I tried therapy. It was the first time I heard of adult children of alcoholics, which is something that we'll get back to, because that's part of the story. Part of the story is growing up with an alcoholic father and a mother who wasn't happy about it and had some struggles of her own. And, growing up very isolated, and really the only thing that I had going for me was my intellect, was my brains. And I was, my ego and my sense of self were so completely wrapped up in that anytime I didn't know something, it would create a huge state of panic. So fast forwarding to that moment in my dorm room, that was what kind of shaped that whole thing. So that was the beginning of you're in it now, kid. and it's all up to you, but also this total panic, because I don't know, how old was I, like 20?
Well, and with that, there's this inherent idea that somehow everybody else has it figured out.
Yes, exactly. Yes, I'm the only person on the planet who doesn't know what she's doing. And, everybody else in my dorm room, they all have their career paths all planned out. Yes, it was very much this feeling of being completely alone in the world, which was also a part of I always felt. My first
Mm.
childhood memory is, I think, being 3 or 4 years old and standing at the end of my driveway and watching other kids playing and wondering how they knew
Mm.
how to do that. Like I
Mm.
genuinely remember that,
Yeah.
so always feeling like an outsider and always
Mm.
feeling like I didn't know what to do and that there was something wrong with me because I didn't know what to do,
Yeah.
instead of,
Yeah.
fast forward to now and it's like nobody knows what they're doing.
Nobody knows what they're doing. We're all just
And
winging
it's,
it.
yeah, exactly. We're all just, yeah, we're all figuring it out as we go. But
Yeah.
that's an almost 35-year process to get to that realization. So it's
Yeah.
yeah, it's been a long journey. So it's been quite a journey from that night of panic to where we are today.
Yeah. And so how did you proceed? So this panic, like oh crap, I don't know what I'm doing here. I don't know how to do this life thing.
I latched on to people who I thought were interesting.
Mm.
I changed my major a couple of times. I was always very changeable. Um, and my best friend at the time got pregnant, and I threw myself completely into that because I didn't have like my own thing. It's like, well, I'll make this thing my thing.
Yeah.
And that's been a big pattern
Yeah.
in a lot of my relationships, not having my own sense of self and not having my own goals and not having my own um sense of purpose. I would I
Mhm.
would adopt
Mhm.
other people's
Yep.
as my own. I've learned
Yeah.
that that's sort of like that's like the chameleon expression of codependency.
I'd say that's the like classic ACOA, right? That over functioning kind of like, okay, well,
Yes.
I'll be
I
so,
I want to be I want to be needed, you
yeah.
know. Yeah, very
Yeah. And
much.
and to have to, this feeling that you have to take care of everybody around you. And
Yes.
that's going
Yes,
to give you a sense
absolutely.
of stability and safety and purpose and meaning. And yeah.
Very much
Yeah.
so. Classic
Yeah.
caretaker
Yeah.
chameleon.
Yeah. I relate.
So I feel seen. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
but very, very, very emotionally needy. Very,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
which makes it difficult to love. It's funny. I recently had this moment, like within the last couple of weeks. I was making amends to an ex-boyfriend, and I had this
Mm.
idea. Why do I keep attracting emotionally unavailable men? And then all of a sudden the download came. Valerie, maybe you're emotionally unavailable. Did you ever think of that? And it was like, oh, that was an ouchy little truth bomb there. For as much as I need, I avoid.
Yeah.
Because I'm so afraid of
Mm.
getting it, because I'm not going to know what to do with it. I mean, it's
Yeah. Well,
crazy,
your
crazy
system, yeah,
stuff.
your
It's
system doesn't know, right? You don't know how to regulate that.
right.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I love you. I hate you. I
Yeah.
feel that you're really into me. Oh my God.
Ah,
the,
back and
yeah,
forth.
the attachment avoidant dance.
Yes.
So that
Yes.
was a big thing. So that's prompted me to really look at my motives, have
Mm.
and have I really loved somebody, or have I just needed something from them?
Wow.
Am
That's
I am I
that's
giving in order to get? Has this been transactional? In the
mm.
moment, feeling like there's love, but then but
Mhm.
then having to chase it when I feel like maybe it's starting to wane a bit. Really messed up. It's really messed up stuff, but it's really it's childish, but
Yeah.
because that's where it comes from.
Yeah. It's that
So
insecure attachment.
yes,
Yeah.
very much so.
So I love that you recognize that, hey, there's a pattern. I'm running a pattern because we're all running a pattern of some sort or
Yes,
another, right? And
absolutely.
to be
Sure.
able to recognize it. So where in that process did you realize, like, okay, and not in like an, oh crap, I'm responsible for my life, but like, okay, like I get to create my life. So yes, I need to be the hero. Well, and being the hero of your own life is a choice, right?
Sure. Yes, because certain aspects of the childhood that I had, and the codependency and everything, and then on top of that, being in very with and because of the type of codependency and certain aspects of family of origin, traumatic stuff, just being very vulnerable to manipulative and
Mm,
predatory types of people. That's been a big that's been part of the story as well. um where was I going with that? But it was realizing that I needed to do something
mm,
about that, you know
yeah.
um that I really had to look at what was allowing that dynamic
Mm,
to continue as well. So that's been the catalyst
mm,
for the growth to date. That's been the theme
mm,
of the last few years,
mm,
uh, is learning how to recognizing that I needed to rebuild myself, like an
mhm.
actual capital S
Yeah.
self, learn boundaries, understand how my mind works. And yeah,
Mhm.
like now I get to choose. I went through a period when I was in my early 20s. I went through a very angry young woman
Mm,
period, and I was really angry with my parents, and I blamed them for a lot of stuff. And then, fast forward to me being not exactly mother of the year, I can say with with complete honesty, not intending to replicate aspects of my family of origin. I didn't intend to become an alcoholic parent, but it's interesting being both. I'm a child of an alcoholic. I'm also an alcoholic parent, and I I lived in a certain type of environment, and I created aspects of that environment. So it's really been interesting being on both sides of the equation, but
mhm.
realizing that I'm the one who has to bring closure to all of this stuff, that
Mm,
that I can acknowledge the absence of things,
mhm.
the types of emotional bonding and all of that stuff that every single human being on the planet needs. Like there's nothing there's
Yeah.
nothing there's nothing unique about my emotional needs. It's every
Yeah.
single human
Yeah.
requires certain stuff. And if you don't get that
Yeah.
stuff, then you're left to figure it out on your own. And 5-year-olds aren't all that skilled at figuring this stuff out. So when you're showing up, aesthetically as an adult, but it's really a 5-year-old that's driving the bus.
Yeah.
you know so it's
Yeah.
it's recognizing that, and it's like, okay, I'm going to have to be the parent. I'm going to have to be the one to figure out how to give myself what I didn't get, and to
Mhm.
learn, and to just accept that that's the work that needs to be done. and
Mm,
and it's okay. my
mhm.
parents my parents aren't bad people,
Yeah.
not at all. And the whole idea of we're all doing the best we can with what we have, where we are, we know what we eat, all of those slogans that sometimes they make you crazy.
Mhm. It's a short
But
trip for some of us.
yeah, exactly. Except that they're true. So
Yeah.
getting out of the victimhood and the learned helplessness and all of that stuff, and the very, all of the passivity of my childhood, which then made me
Mm,
vulnerable to certain types of personalities, and that created its own thing. So having to unwrap all of that, starting a few years ago. And therapy and courses and seminars
mhm.
and webinars and books and hundreds of hours of yoga and, all of
Yeah,
the, a lot of work, a lot of acceptance, a lot of honesty.
yeah.
All of those things are really required.
And so you mentioned a couple of years ago, really leaning into, okay, like I'm going to do the work of discovering who I am, of reparenting myself, of, what are my boundaries? What is a boundary? What even is that? Am I, yeah, that's
Yes.
that's a thing. What is a boundary? What's a healthy boundary? So how did you get to the point where you said, okay, I'm going to become the victor, not the victim here? I'm gonna, I don't know how I'm gonna put that down, but I'm gonna put that down, and I'm going to step into being the hero, being the victor, being the heroine.
Well, strangely, it's been by helping other people.
Mm,
Believe it or not, that's how I've been able to make the most sense
mm,
of where I've been and the work that I need to do and the work that I need to continue to do. And that is by giving all of it meaning, by helping other people who are on
mm.
a similar journey. That's really
Yeah.
that's really been it for me.
Yeah. And I love that as a guide, as a coach, as a mentor, really and truly, you want someone who's maybe a couple steps ahead of you, because they they
Yes.
they know, like, really intimately where you're walking right now. And yes, there's absolutely value for people who are, like, they're kind of like complete on the path, but really and truly, as you're navigating those challenging portions of the journey, to have someone
Mhm.
who's like, okay, I, I've got you, you can do this.
Right. And I often feel that that I've taken certain bullets so that other people don't have to.
Mm,
Especially depending on where they are in their journey.
yeah.
If I had, I left a particularly destructive relationship a number of years ago. And I wish that I had better understood what it was in terms of what it had done to me and
Mm,
how it had warped a lot of my perceptions of myself, as well as certain realities of the personality of the other person, because then I would have made very different decisions about
mm,
how to leave that. There's no question that I would have taken my children and gone to a shelter if I
mm,
if I had better understood where I was at the
right.
at the time.
Right.
And so now, I've actually had conversations with other women, and there was one woman in particular who was about to do what I had done, and I said, "Oh no, 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 no! Do not leave
Mm,
without your children. Do not."
mm,
And so it's great to be able to share things from a real place
yeah.
of knowing.
Yeah. Truly. Yeah, I joke that I have a flat spot on my head. I joke, I think I was born with it. I joke that I was born with it because I was going to decide to take the hard route in life so many times, right? So it's like, okay,
Yeah,
so other people don't have to. So other people don't have to.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. So what do you think were the biggest challenges, or are the biggest challenges in this process, right? Recognizing that we're all constantly in process.
Uh, being kind with myself,
Mm,
being forgiving of myself. One of the things that's, it's one thing to figure out my own stuff and figure out how I got here, and now I can learn the tools and the skills and the mindset and
yeah.
the way of, I can heal myself fine. I can bring the closure that I need to bring fine. It's it's when I reflect on the things that I have done that have hurt other people, that
Mm,
is that is really, really hard to manage
Yeah.
at times.
Yeah.
That's really difficult. And something that used to be a challenge but isn't anymore, and I'm mentioning this because I think it's really helpful, is I used to get so frustrated when I would think that, when I would learn something, I would handle a situation well, and I would think, oh, I'm all better now, I'm all fixed now. And then
Sorry,
something, and
I'm
then
laughing with you. I'm
right,
laughing with you.
okay, exactly. And then
Yeah.
a situation would come up that I wouldn't handle so skillfully, and it would be like, oh, I'm still sick, I'm still a
Mm.
mess, I'm still an F
Mm-hmm.
up and everything. And it's like, no, you're just human. And
Yeah.
realizing that part of that has to do with this, um the mindset around making mistakes,
Mm-hmm.
and that being something else that I could trace back, always wanting to be right and always wanting to be perfect, because I needed that validation and all of that stuff. And sometimes there wasn't a tolerance for making mistakes
Mm-hmm.
either, and things like that can be so hard on kids. But it's just the constant going back, and it's like, oh, that's where it comes from. And also just not judging all of that, just noticing it and accepting it without having to get into a whole story about how unfair it was that I did,
Mm.
that stuff. The stories really need to be dropped. There comes a point
Yeah.
when they're not, it's not beneficial. And so
Yeah.
really, the practice becomes just being able to notice my stuff
Mm-hmm.
when it's happening, and it's like, oh, there's that. And it actually reminds me of a story. One of my favorite teachers, Ram Dass, in one of his many lectures, he talks about how, even though he studied all of this Buddhism and practiced all of this meditation and done all of this yoga and the psychedelics and all of this stuff, he said, I don't think that I've cured a single neurosis. I just call them my schmooze and I invite them for tea. And, I heard that, and it's like, that is it. That is it exactly. So it's
Yeah.
like, oh, there's my wounded inner child. Oh, there's my need for validation. Oh, there's my this. Oh, there's my that. And it's like, and okay, so what would be the best way of dealing with this today,
Mm.
given what I've got? And it's just, it's just going through life. It isn't even about, managing trauma or anything like that. It's like, just what to do when this happens. And
Yeah.
that's a really great place to be, is
Yeah.
being able to do that, to just notice and tend to it. And that, I think, is like, that's all, that's what the work is.
Mm.
So this idea that I need to fix myself, this idea that I'm broken and I have to fix myself, it's like,
Mm.
I'm not broken. I'm unskilled, or,
Yeah.
this is a maladaptive behavior, or,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and that's it. So what can I do instead?
Yeah. Yeah. And truly, being able to come from that choice point where because we're all running a pattern, multiple patterns about how we show up in
Yes,
life. And if we're not aware of it, it doesn't mean it's not there. It just means we're not aware of it. So as we develop that awareness, then we have choice.
correct.
Okay, so here I go, or here I have this tendency to go, and I can feel myself getting ready to react in a certain way, and to be able to be like, okay, so that's an option.
It
It's
is.
an option. Would I love that? Or would I love to show up differently here?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's it
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. And if it's differently, well, then what does that look like?
Hmm.
Who is the woman I am becoming?
Right. Who do I want to be? How do I want to show up? Yeah. And
Yeah.
those are exercises, but those are things that I need to look at, quite frequently, as different things come up. You mentioned the the position at Pratt and Whitney, that's a relatively new thing. So I really had to give some thought, and it's something that I've never done before. And it's very much I know that I can do this. I haven't done it before, but I know that I can do it. Like, I know that
Yeah.
I've got this. What does the Pratt and Whitney girl look like? And I
Yeah.
actually did that exercise one afternoon. What does the Pratt and Whitney girl do?
Yes.
What does she think? What does she say? How does she show up? How does she talk to
Yes.
people? Why is she there?
Mm-hmm.
And gosh darn it, if it isn't all working. it's
And
it's it's
it's,
working. It's great because I gave some thought to it, and people like the Pratt and Whitney girl, and
yeah.
people like the recovery coach, and people like the yoga
Yeah.
teacher, and people
Yeah.
like me. it's
Huh.
it's an incredible, and that's a really amazing thing to be able to say, because for most of my
Mm.
life it's like, everybody, like, nobody cares. I've gone
Yeah.
from nobody cares to, gosh darn it, people like me. What was that thing on,
Oh.
on
Oh yeah,
Saturday
that
Night Live?
Saturday night. I
Remember
know. Yeah,
that?
I do.
Right. The,
Oh.
the the mirror affirmations. I'm
Yeah.
good
Yeah,
enough. I'm
Jack
smart enough,
Handy or
and gosh
something.
darn it. Yeah, exactly. And gosh darn it, people like me. So yeah,
Yeah.
there you go.
And I love that we can all consciously choose how we want to show up to our lives, right?
Yes.
And to be clear, it's not about putting on a facade about how we think, like, oh, the Pratt and Whitney girl should look and act like this, but it's how is Valerie showing up as the Pratt and Whitney
Right.
woman, right?
Because I made a decision that I was going to show up a certain way for the interview,
Yes.
which clearly worked, because here we are. And it's like, okay, so how am I gonna show up to my
Yeah.
team to my team at work? How am I going to serve?
Yeah.
How
And
can I
coming from
serve?
that,
Yeah,
yeah, coming from that internal, right? So not that
correct.
external, like, kind of idea of I have to show up in a certain way for the people around me, based
No,
on what I think they think or want, but who am I authentically? What is that
yeah,
authentic expression of myself?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's going really well. I was sharing today with my supervisor my thoughts and approach on the first project that I've been assigned. And she said, "Wow, I really like what I'm hearing." So
Well,
there it
well
is,
done. Well
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you can, we always keep hearing, you got to be yourself.
Mm,
And it really does work. And
yeah.
but it takes, depending on where you're coming from, it takes time to figure that out. And Nikki Myers, who is somebody that I really admire, she defines codependency as the disease of the lost self. And I
Mm,
really, and I have, I couldn't endorse that idea
mhm.
more strongly. So depending on where we're coming from, that's certainly the starting point. But if I can get clear on who I really am, what I feel my purpose is, what is,
Yeah.
in a very deep way, like, what is my soul's purpose, what is my dharma,
Yeah.
why was I put here?
Yeah.
um I can and finding out how I can express that as an organizational change management specialist.
Yeah. Because those things are possible.
And also as a yoga teacher, and also as a
Yeah.
recovery coach, and
Yeah.
also as a teacher of the universal laws. And I mean, it's just, there's no end to how it
Mm.
can be expressed, how it can be put forth. It's really exciting.
So, what advice would you give to people to help them discover their true self? To start that, depending on where they are in that process of becoming the heroine, the hero of their own life, how do you start to get to know yourself and who that is?
Yeah, it's a it's a path of rigorous honesty. That's
Mm,
for sure. it entails becoming rigorously honest with myself about what kind of life I really want to have, and not giving the other voices in my head that aren't even mine an audience anymore. I don't need anybody's approval, and I don't need anybody to sign off on it. It only needs to be okay with me. And it's okay for me to feel that way, which is a huge freaking deal, I'm sure, for a lot, because it sounds so selfish and self-centered. I would call it rational self-interest. I don't think, some people, there's nothing wrong with being self-centered in the sense that I wish to center my activities on being in service of what my soul's desire is, what I really feel I'm here to do. It doesn't make me a big deal. It just makes me me, but it doesn't create any kind of hierarchy. This isn't about feeling better or superior or more awake or more anything to anybody else. This is just, I'm 53 years old, and it's, if not now, then when? And I think that was one of Hillel's great sayings. If, it's gotta be, if not me, then who? I'll have to look up that quotation and send it to you, because that really encapsulates this idea of it is entirely up to me. And so I'm going to have to figure out what I want that to be. And so it really does. It really starts with a lot of rigorous honesty and dropping a lot of stories, doing an inventory of my thoughts and my, how do I think about myself, and where do those thoughts come from, and are they even mine, and do I agree with them?
Because we have a choice about that.
And knowing that not everybody's gonna love what's going on, but
but imagine if we all really took care of ourselves in a loving way. I believe that when we are connected to our capital S self, there's an openness, a freedom, an aliveness that comes with that. It's not about competition or one-up. It's not about that at all. It's not selfish in the way that we think of it in our society.
No, not at all.
It's really, it's a self-love.
You see it in other people. As I start to develop my true self, I see it in everybody else's. And one of the statements from the Bhagavad Gita that I really try to practice and to really live up to is, they live in wisdom who see themselves in all, and all in them. And that's one of the primary ideas of my life. That to me is one of the truest truths, and one of the noblest things to aspire to, is to really see that, to know that we really are all one. We really are all love, and it's not hippy dippy. It really is true. And the kinder I've learned to be to myself, and trust me, it's still very much a work in progress, but the kinder I can be to myself, the kinder I can be to other people, and to encourage them to be kind as well. Especially, a lot of people that I interact with are new, like within the first few days of stopping drinking, for example. And so there's a lot of, self-criticism. Like there's they haven't stopped drinking because they're feeling good. I mean, they're not coming to meetings because they're having a good time. And so, but it's really, really important to instill that idea of being really kind to yourself and really gentle to yourself, and be really patient, and,
Yeah.
drink water and take a nap, that,
Yeah.
like, really basic stuff. So
Yeah.
self-care is a big part of the process too,
Yeah.
because
And
our bodies hold everything, and,
they do. Yep. And learning how to take care of yourself
correct.
and what that looks like without substances or other addictive things.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's your next level on your journey? If we think about the hero's journey, right? And
Right.
the heroine's
The
journey,
heroine's journey.
what's your next level?
Well, I would have to say it's very much happening now.
Yay.
I'm very much in it now. And that is to continue to refine, how I'm showing up. I'm making decisions about relationships,
Mm,
really deciding to insist on what it is that I want, and get out of the habit of settling.
mm,
So that's a big thing. That's a big thing for me that's happening right now in
yeah.
real time.
Well
That's a
done.
big one. That's a big
Well
one.
done.
Something is not better than nothing.
Yes. Especially when something erodes your sense of self.
Or it just isn't in alignment. See, here's
Yeah.
here's the here's the
Yeah.
really here's the really interesting thing. The person that I'm going through this with now is a lovely human being, and that isn't what it's about. It's just either what we both want is the same,
Mm,
or it isn't. And if it
mhm.
isn't, it's okay.
Yeah.
Just let it go. Like, and
Yeah.
it's fine, and it's good, and it's nothing that I need to feel broken up over. It's just it's this radical acceptance of how things truly are, instead of
Mhm.
how I would like them to be, or is there something that I could do to make it be what I think
Mm,
it wants it to be, and all of
yeah.
this, the codependent cray. It's
Yeah.
like,
That contorting. Yeah. Yeah.
it's not it I think it either is or it isn't, and
Yeah.
either way, it's fine.
Yeah. How liberating.
Yes.
How liberating.
Yeah, it really
Yeah.
is.
And so you're a life coach as well, and a recovery coach.
Yes. Yes.
So how can people connect with you if they would love to hear more about that?
The best way to connect with me is you can go to my website, valerieconnell.com, and there's a link where you can schedule a call. So if you have questions about your own drinking or about somebody
Mm,
else's, COVID has done a bit of a number on people. Also, especially when it comes to women with trauma, with challenging relationships, with
mm,
pre-existing anxiety and
mhm.
depression. Uh, when they have that stuff going on, sometimes we self-medicate, and
Yep.
we
Yep.
we certain we have this mommy juice culture, which sort of normalizes regular drinking as a way of dealing with stress. And so
Mhm.
sometimes what works for a while stops working, and you wonder if, gee, is this a
Mm,
problem, or could it be a problem, or maybe you're concerned about somebody else, or
mm.
we can just have a completely open, non-judgy
Yeah.
conversation about that. And we live in a time where we have really fantastic recovery options that
Mm,
are available. So there's a number of ways,
mm,
of approaching the problem. So,
mm. Awesome. And I will put your website in the show notes as well.
oh, thank you.
So um any last words for our listeners, or is there anything you'd want to share with someone who's just, they're maybe kind of at that wake up point? They're maybe at the kind of like, holy crap point.
Yeah.
What would you say to them?
Um, welcome to the party. and and it's gonna be ouchy, but it's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
Just ask for help and let people help you.
Mm. And
Those are two things I wish I had done a lot earlier
yeah.
in my game. Let me tell you something. Like it's okay to need help. If more people would say, I have no idea what I'm doing,
Yeah, right? Because none of us really do. We're all figuring
then
it out.
it's like, oh, dude, me neither. Let's talk about it. Really. Because
Yeah.
and yeah.
Yeah.
And one day you'll be able to help somebody else too.
Yeah. Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Valerie. I so appreciate our conversation
Thank
and
you.
really looking forward to sharing this with the listeners. So thank you so much. And so for people listening, if you could like, subscribe, whatever, all the things that you do to a podcast, that would be great. And I look forward to connecting again.